What's going on, guys? BossBase6 here, back to another video, and today, here to give you guys a special video for you, as I'm doing another edition of the Mental Month Retrospective. And for those of you who might be wondering, well, isn't it kind of a work day for you? Technically, yes, but I decided to call today off because it's my birthday! Yes, your boy has turned 23 years old, and I decided to take the day off because when hopefully this video is uploaded, I'll be at a concert seeing King Parrot, Guar, and of course Soulfly. So happy birthday to me. And well, today I got an interesting band for you guys, and one that is slowly becoming one of my all-time favorite death metal bands. Of course, I'll be talking about English death metal legends, Carcass. This is a very unique episode I have for you guys, considering that this band has changed their styles damn near on every album, essentially. Yeah, I'm very curious how this ranking is going to be for the viewing audience. Now, as always, with every ranking I've been doing, how did I get into this band's discography? How did I get into this band in general? Well, if you guys remember back on my channel, like way back on my channel, I did a little series called Random Album Reviews. Either I would listen to albums that either people recommended to me or I just found on my own. And one of the albums that I listened to was Torn Arteries, which was Carcass's latest album at that point. And I listened to it, fell in love with it. I absolutely dug the hell out of that album. And then I kind of just forgot about them. Now, to be fair, around that time, I wasn't really big into death metal. I was still trying to expand my metal horizon, if you will, because I was still coming out of high school. I was still listening to, like, the Slipknots and the more metalcore-like bands. So I was still trying to get my metal fandom, like, out of the way. Of course, I was still listening to classic bands like Motorhead, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Metallica, all those bands. I was still listening to them, but I really wasn't. I was still listening to those new metal / metalcore bands in mind as well. And then when I listened to Torn Arteries, I'm like, okay, that was a really damn good album. And then as the years are going on, again, I was getting more and more into death metal with bands like Death, Obituary, DSI, Bolt Thrower, Cannibal Corpse, Nile, all those bands, and they've become slowly one of my favorite death metal bands. And I've always heard Carcass has been putting out some banger albums like Necroticism, Heartwork, Surgical Steel, Symphonies of Sickness, so on and so forth. And I just kept forgetting to jam them until this ranking, and I'm honestly kind of glad that I did, because if I didn't find this band sooner, then I don't know what would have happened. But yeah, this has been a very interesting ranking I have for you guys here. So yeah, without further ado, everybody grab your handsaws and grab your power tools, because we're diving into the splendid surgical savagery of Carcass. So, this band formed in Liverpool, England in 1985 as a school band by guitarist Bill Steer and drummer Ken Owen. Now, Carcass actually went under a different name titled Disattack, which was a D-beat hardcore band. This lineup consisted of Bill Steer on guitar, Peter Middleborough, aka Mitty, on drums, or I think his name is Matty, I believe. He was the drummer, Paul Kelly on bass, and Andrew Peck on vocals. That's Peck with P-E-K, by the way. So they released one demo, A Bomb Drops, in 1986, and after that demo, Paul will be replaced by the legendary Jeff Walker, former guitarist and vocalist of the Electric Hippies, which was more of a thrashcore band. So now Andrew would actually change his name after a visit to India, named Sanjeev. And there wasn't really a whole lot to this guy shortly afterwards. Sanjeev Sumner, that's what his name's going by here. And around that time, that's when Bill would actually join Napalm Death, for those of you who remember my Napalm Death ranking. to replace one Justin Broderick on the second side of Scum. And actually, fun fact, Jeff Walker would actually do the album cover for Scum. A little bit of interesting facts there. Now, this attack would actually change their name to Carcass as the band was starting to change their musical sound. This change would lead to a new drummer as Ken Owen would join around this time. And in April of '87, they recorded the flesh-ripping Sonic Torment demo, the only Carcass recording that features Sanjeev on vocals, who would actually leave shortly thereafter. Now for the debut, Bill, Ken, and Jeff would share vocal duties, and they go to the Rich Bitch Studio and released on Earache/Combat Records in the U.S. on July 28th, 1988. We would get their pretty legendary debut, Reek of Putrefaction. Now, this is a very different album for this band, and this really helps start a different subgenre of grindcore, namely gore grind. For those of you who don't know what gore grind is, it's especially grindcore, but take out the political aspects and bring in more like medical terminology, and they basically just looked up a lot of like stuff in the medical textbook and just find the grossest shit possible and made an album out of it. And this was funny. A bunch of Carcass bands like, Exhumed and Open Surgery, for example. So, this is a pretty, more of a novelty album more than anything. Now, as far as I rank this, I originally ranked this dead last as my number 7, but there was one album that I didn't really care for all that much afterwards. So, I ranked this as my number 6. This is a raw, gross album, but is a fuck ton of fun. It's 22 tracks, a little over 40 minutes, which is a little bizarre for grindcore, but this is a pioneering album, to say the least. But there's a lot of fun tracks here, like Regurgitation of Giblets is fun, Maggot Colony is fun, Piscified, I believe that's how you say that, / Rotten to the Gore, which is pretty fun. Carbonized Eye Sockets is awesome. Vomited Anal Track, beefy. Foticide, Burnt to a Crisp, Oxidized Razor Masticator. I mean, this thing is a fucking blast from start to finish. Unfortunately, though, the production on this album is fucking terrible. This is one of those albums where the production is probably more well known than the actual album itself. Like, it literally sounds like an elephant swallowed the fucking tape recording and it just popped out of its ass. Like, that's how bad this production is. Like, the guitars are very, very muddy. It honestly, if you really think about it, this honestly could have been like a demo. Like, it's a very lo-fi demo recording. And granted, they didn't get the production that they wanted for this album. But goddamn, this production is fucking terrible. But this album is a fuck ton of fun. Damn, sorry about that, folks. My neck's been bothering me lately. But yeah, this is a fun album, but god-awful production. So, I had to rank it my number 6, but don't misconstrued what I'm saying here. This is still a very fun album. Now, despite the band not being pleased by the final product, it actually became a favorite of Radio 1 DJ John Peel of the Peel Sessions. And they were asked to participate in their Peel session in 1989, where they debuted new material. Now, the Peel session was released as an EP with the guys adapting new surnames. I believe Ken is K. Grimgurgler, or Gargler, however you say that. Jeff, I think, goes under J. Olfilmangler, and I believe Bill goes over W.G. Thorax Embalmer. Because why the fuck not? Like, why not? I mean, you do you, buddy boo. Who am I to judge? So also in '89, Jeff and Bill would actually appear as members in Lister's fictional band, Smeg, and their heads or Smeg and the Heads, in an episode of Red Dwarf, which was more so a pretty well-known British series at that time. So with the extracurricular activities out of the way, they went back into the studio, this time with famed producer Colin Richardson as a producer, which he would do all the production up until Torn Arteries, so he's going to be here for a little bit. And on November 4th, 1989, we would get Symphonies of Sickness. This is my number 5. This is a way better album than Reek in every sense of the word, in terms of production-wise. And also songwriting-wise as well, let's all be fair. This is still more death metal kind of grind thrown in there. But there's still a lot of fun stuff on this album. And of course, you get some awesome song titles as well. But what I really do like is that it is still more of a raw sound, but it's a little more chaotic, which I really do like. And you could sense that this band were starting to slowly break out over time. But of course, we get Reek Putrefaction, which I don't know why. That's a little bit of a gripe with some bands I have. Why would you have a song that you named an album after not be on that album? Like, I don't get it. I don't know why bands do that, but Exhumed to Consume, one of the big standouts in their career. I believe that's a live staple to this very day. Ruptured and Purulence, Pathological Necroticism, Embryonic Necropsy and Devourment, awesome. Cadaveric Incubator of Endoparasites, cool. And Crepitating Bowel Erosion, yeah, better make sure you get that colon checked out there, buddy, because I don't know what you were eating. I don't know if you were eating Taco Bell, Chipotle, and what the fuck else, but you better get that checked out. Yeah, overall, still a fun album. This is still really, really, really damn good. It's just, to me personally, there wasn't really a whole lot of standouts to me on this album. People think this is a classic. I'm not going to deny it, but yeah, this is still pretty damn good. This is a really damn good album, and you could sense the melodies were still in there, but you could still sense that they were still messing around with the more grindy stuff, but excuse me, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. So yeah, number 5, Symphonies of Sickness. This is the sickness I can get down with. So now for the second half of the tour for Symphonies, they would get Michael Lamont, who was previously in the band Carnage. If you guys remember my Dark Recollections retro review that I did, Michael would play on the second Peel session and contributed material on their next album. And also in '89, they take part of the Grind Crusher tour, along with Morbid Angel, Bolt Thrower, and Napalm Death. That sounds like a fucking blast of a tour. Pun unintended, obviously. So after the tour, they go back into the studio again with Colin Richardson, and on October 30th, 1991, we would get Necroticism, aka Necroticism, Discanting the Ensalbrius. I believe that's how you say that word. This is my number 4. I originally had this as my number 3, but there was one album that beat it out just by a hair. But this is their big shift into more melodic death metal, but it isn't straight ahead melodic death metal. Like, the melodies are really out front on this album. Like, the big leap from Symphonies to Necroticism is fucking insane. The more melodies are popping up on this album, which is awesome, but it's more still straight ahead death metal. And this is more mid-tempo, more groove-laden than the previous 2 albums. So they did slow down a little bit, but you still get some like hefty bangers on this album, like Symphonies of Sickness and Incarnated Solvent Abuse. Pedigree Butcheries is another one as well. And Forensic Clinicism, the Sanguine Article. Like, I love those. I love like the riff pattern on that song in particular. And Propagation is a really big standout too. I love that that opening as well. But of course, the big standout, Corporal Jigsaw Quandary. I mean, that drum intro was fucking incredible. And I gotta say this, Ken Owen, underrated drummer. This dude, I felt like never got his flowers when it comes to, awesome fills, great, blast beats, and all that fun stuff. Also, big standout tracks like Carcass Cacophony and Lavagine expurgate of Lysigid composition. I believe that's how you say that word. Yeah, this is a killer album. This is a '90s death metal standout to me, and that album artwork is pretty fucking sweet, if you ask me. So, yeah, I mean, they still got the surgical songwriting in mind, but this is where the melodies were really starting to pop up in the band. So, yeah, got nothing really to complain. And I gotta say this, 1 through 4 was really tough to rank, if you ask me, because I felt like I was changing my final 4 like almost every day with every listen. So, yeah, it was a bit tough, but yeah, I ranked this number 4. Killer stuff, absolutely stand out. So after Necrosis, they toured heavily on this album, and they were part of the Earache Gods of Grind tour with Cathedral, Entombed, and Confessor in Europe and the States. In 1992, they released the Tools of the Trade EP to coincide with the tour, and they also toured with Napalm Death, Cathedral, and Brutal Truth on the Campaign for Musical Destruction tour in 1992. So after the tour, it was time for another studio album, once again with Colin Richardson as the producer. And on October 18th, 1993, so almost 2 years later, they released what a lot of people consider their magnum opus, Heartwork. Now, usually when I do a ranking, and a lot of people could say this is the band's the best album or their best material, so on and so forth, I usually say either it's a great album, but it's not my favorite, or I think it's okay, or it's just not a good album. This is one of the albums where I agree with everybody and say, yeah, this is their best album. This is my number 1. I mean, there is another album that I can argue for it being their best, but I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But from top to bottom, this is when they go full-blown metal death, and it's absolutely spectacular. Still got some more heavier moments in there, too. Like, it's not just full-on melody. There are still a lot of heavy hitters on this album, like Carnal Forge, Embodiment, Bleeding the Blind, and Doctrinal Explicitives. Like, those songs are still heavy as fuck. But the opening, Buried Dreams, so fucking good. I love the melodies on that. No Love Lost is a standout. The title track, which actually, the album cover for this album was actually done by the one and only H.R. Geiger. The piece was called Life Support, 1993, which is absolutely beautiful. That is a masterful piece. Better than what he was trying to do with that Alien Newborn and Alien Resurrection, but he says he likes that, so who the fuck am I to judge? But yeah, H.R. Giger has been somewhat, he's been somewhat contributed to extreme metal stuff. I mean, fuck, him and Tom G. Warrior are buddies, so what do I know? But yeah, that was really cool. This Mortal Coil is a huge standout. Arbeit Macht Fleisch, I think that's how you say that word. That's awesome as well. Like, all these tracks, Death Certificate is a banger as well. All these tracks are absolutely fantastic. The melodies are there. You still get a little bit of some, like, thrashier moments, too. But, top to bottom, this is an absolute standout. And this really kicked Megadeth into high gear, considering that you would get bands like Dark Tranquillity, In Flames, Soilwork, Black Dahlia, At the Gates. Like, this was a very pioneering album. Like, this really helped send Megadeth to the fucking stratosphere, if you ask me. And yeah, there's a reason why this has been praised as an all-time classic, and I can understand why it is. So, yeah, I can't say much more about this other than it's a fucking masterpiece. Go check this out if you haven't listened to it. My number 1. So, this album was praised as one of the best death metal albums of all time, and the band were very, very, very happy about this album. So after Heartwork, they would actually sign a deal with Columbia Records, hoping for more success. After Heartwork was recorded, Michael Lamont would leave. It was briefly replaced by Mike Hickey, and who was also replaced by Carlos Reguedes. Rigadas, I believe that's how you say his name. Now, for the follow-up to Hard Work, this is where things get dicey. Let's just say that. There were a handful of tracks ready to record at Rockford Studios in southern Wales in early 1995. During the 6-week recording schedule, the label was starting to withdraw support, saying that the band wasn't ready to record and needed to write more songs. This was ignored, as this was the suggestion to get Terry Date to remix the album, as Terry was more well known for his stuff for Overkill, but mainly Pantera around this time. But the band continued. Now, Jeff would state in an interview that this new album was going to be very different. Instrumentation was going to be very Thin Lizzy-like, and they were really focusing on more hard rock riffs, if you will. And then we get into 1996, and this is where things really came to a clash when Sony/Columbia caused the album to be delayed, to which the band went back to earache. And then we would get on June 10th, 1996, still with Carl Richardson as a producer, we get the aptly titled Swan Song. Now, this album is very divisive amongst the fans, even though initially this did sell really well. However, this is my dead last. And before I get into anything, I don't think this is a flat-out terrible album. I think all of Carcass's albums are pretty good to flat-out excellent. The problem I have with this album is that this album, for the most part, is a complete fucking bore. There is like 4 standout tracks, and this is like 8 tracks of filler. Like, there's some decent material here, but here's my thing. It's 1996, and this is where they were somewhat experimenting with like death and roll, or like black and roll, if they want to say it. But here's the thing. This was not the right time to make an album like this. Like, yeah, you have Entombed Wolverine Blues, but that was back in 93, and that sold initially too, and then they kept trying to continue that route, but it wasn't really doing all that well. They were reading the room wrong. Like, it just wasn't, it wasn't the right time to make this album. Like, if, in all honesty, this could have been like an EP, and if they would have made like a proper follow-up to Hard Work, then I think the band would have received this a little bit more. Like, there's still some standout tracks, like Keep On Riding in the Free World, Tomorrow Belongs to Nobody, Black Star is decent, Cross My Heart's fun, and I like Don't Believe a Word. But my problems with it is that, you know, it's not that the riffs themselves, I think they're okay for the most part. Bill Steer is still, you know, writing some, you know, doing some good riffs. Jeff Walker's still snarling his ass off. But Ken Owen, somebody tell this dude to kick it up a fucking notch, because good lord, it's essentially the same fucking drum beat. Like, it's ridiculous. What are you, Lars Ulrich? Come on, get in the high gear there, Ken. I mean, seriously, like, every time he did the same drum fill, it was starting to get a little irritating. But it's like, I love Ken Owen, but it's like, dude, can you, like, hit the cymbals and the toms a little bit more, please? But yeah, like, this album just does not fit in this band. And I've seen some people say that, oh, well, this is kind of like their Black Sabbath 7th Star, which I think is complete bullshit, because are we forgetting the fact that Sabbath was a blues metal band when they made 7th Star? I mean, seriously, like, say what you will about that album. At least the band were a blues band before they became a heavy metal juggernaut. With this album, like, guys, Carcass didn't start off as a death and roll band. They started more off as a gore grind band that became death metal. So, yeah, it's a little bizarre that some people make that comparison. Trust me, I've seen it. But, this album just doesn't do anything for me. Like, again, there's some standout tracks. Again, I don't hate this album, but it just doesn't do anything for me. Like, you can skip this album and really not miss anything, and I'm willing to bet it had something to do with some label interference as well, because, yeah, it just wasn't. It just didn't help things any better. So yeah, it's my number 7. Not terrible, but then I won't go back to it anytime soon. So while this album did get mixed reviews, it did sell well, so I can give it that. Stand at the top of the indie rock chart, even above bands like Placebo. Now, there were rumors that they were offered to do big tours, such as the X Factor tour for Iron Maiden. But since the album got delayed, nothing came of it. Now, they did put out the Wake Up and Smell the Carcass compilation in October of '96. Now, this is where the breakup happened. Ken, Jeff, and Carlos would go on to form Black Star, which was, I believe, which was more of a, actually, was that more of like a thrash act? I'm actually trying to remember what they were. I know I had it pull up. Okay, so no, they were more of a hard rock band, and they only released one album in 1998 on Peaceville Records. It was titled Barbed Wire Soul. Yeah, they would actually get Cathedral bassist Mark Griffiths for that as well. And they actually would change it to Black Star Rising and release the aforementioned Black Wired Soul album in '98. Now, that project will ultimately end in a very tragic and heartbreaking fashion, where Ken would unfortunately suffer a severe brain stroke or a cerebral hemorrhage in '99. So, yeah, a lot of bad shit went down after the breakup. Now, Michael would go into bigger things, forming the awesome rock band Spiritual Beggars, and then actually joining, I believe, his former colleague in Arch Enemy. And actually, Michael was briefly in Candlemass, I believe, for the Dactylus Glomerata album in '98. So yeah, blinking you'll miss it. He was there. It was kind of bizarre. Meanwhile, Bill would go on to form the band Firebird, which was more of an Eric Clapton-esque band. And then some years would pass, everybody would do their own thing, and in '06, Jeff would actually do a country metal album titled Welcome to Carcass Country. That's Country. Clever. That would actually feature Bill and Ken. Now, after that album, Jeff, in an interview, discussed the possibility that the band was going to be reforming, but somebody would ultimately have to replace Ken. Enter former Brohyrja drummer Daniel Erlandsson, who was the brother of Adrian Erlandsson. And in October of '87, in October of '07, they played in Vaken and Finland's Tuska Open Air Metal Festival in 2008, and thus a reunion tour has begun, and everybody was throwing babies in the air because they have missed this band so much. So, they were ready to have a comeback album after it was confirmed that Bill and Jeff were working on new material. Now, after a shit ton of festivals in 2012, Michael and Daniel were actually going to leave to join Arch Enemy. And so they were looking for a new drummer for this new album. Enter former Trigger the Bloodshed, which is a death grind act. They would get their drummer, who was a beast of a drummer, in Daniel Wilding. And then for guitars, they get former Pig Iron guitarist Ben Ash. And thus, the new lineup was complete for their comeback album, and they would sign with Nuclear Blast Records. And a returning Carl Richardson in the producer's chair. We would get, on September 13th, 2013, we would get the comeback album to end all comeback albums, Surgical Steel. This is my number 2. This was actually close to being my number 1. And the main reason why I say that is because as much as I love Heartwork, there were times on this album that I honest to God thought that Surgical Steel was going to win out for this album, but ultimately it did not. But you could honestly make a case this being their best album, because not only did they come back and unleash the fucking fury on this album, but holy shit, this thing is riff-laden, it is aggressive, it's melodic, but it's so damn good in every sense of the word. We get the opening 1985, which is a nice little callback to when they first formed. Awesome big melodies, and then we get to the opening Thrasher's repertoire. big, thrashy bastard throughout. And there's some more thrashier moments on this album as well. Cadaver Punch Conveyor System, again, with the awesome... They went back to, like, the reek and the, the reek through necroticism kind of medical textbook stuff, which I thought was great. That's an awesome song. Congealed Clot of Blood, that's also very nice. The Master Butcher's Apron. Holy fuck, those riffs. Like, the lead trade-offs between Ben and Bill are fucking incredible on that song. Non-compliance or compliance to ASTM 4899-12 standard. You gotta put the dash in there as well. That's a banger of a song. The awesome, like sinister, evil, dark melodies of the Grand Undulating Dark Satanic Mills is one of my favorite Carcass moments. Unfit for Human Consumption is a banger. 316L Great Surgical Steel. Probably my favorite track on this entire album, Captive Bolt Pistol. That is an aggressive track. And it's absolutely awesome. And the ending 7-minute epic of Mountain of Execution, that is just nothing but riffs and Jeff just snarling his ass off. And I'm gonna say, Jeff Walker, this dude is fucking immortal. Like, this dude has been snarling his ass off since 87, and they have not stopped at all, and it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I got nothing else to say other than listen to this fucking thing. This thing is absolutely superb through and through. One of the best comeback albums, arguably the best comeback album, depending on who you ask, but yeah, this is one of my all-time favorite modern death metal albums. Absolutely superb. One of the best albums of the 2010s, if you ask me. So, not much more needs to be said other than listen to this bad boy. My number 2, Surgical Steel. So this album was overwhelmingly positive and charted huge on the Billboard Top 200. Now after Surgical Steel, they headlined Damnation Festival in Leeds before embarking on the Defenders of the Faith tour, not with Judas Priest, but with Amon Amarth and the band Hell. They were also part of the 70,000 tons of metal cruise, and they released an EP in late 2014 titled Surgical Remission / Surplus Steel, which were basically leftovers from the aforementioned Surgical Steel. Now, more tours would happen, including the Dream Crusher tour in 2015 with Napalm Death, Voivod, and Harand, with Bill actually rejoining Napalm for a little bit on the tour as well. They also joined Testament on Slayer's Repentless tour, and then in March of 2018, Ben would announce his departure from the band, and they would get former Angel Witch drummer Tom Draper. Wait, was it drummer or guitarist? Hold on. Actually, hold on. Give me 1 second. Was he the drummer or was he the guitarist? Because I think he was actually the guitarist. Angel Witch. Hold up. Sorry about that, folks. No, it was a former drummer. Oh, okay. My bad. Hold on. Hold up. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Okay. I might have gotten that wrong. Son of a bitch. Hold up. I got this all fucked up. Sorry about that, folks. Technical difficulties. Let's see. Yeah, because that wouldn't make sense that... Let's see. Yeah, no, yeah, he was the former drummer. So wait, what happened to Dana Wilding then? Oh, okay. I guess I got it all. I got it all fucked up. Okay, my bad. It's not a Metal Mouth retrospective without something fucking up. Okay, well, no, he would actually join for the live setting. Okay, never mind. Son of a bitch, I did all of that just for that. Okay, never mind. Anyways, now while these tours were going on, they were writing new material and had some songs released, and they announced in 2020 that a new album was going to drop. About that, yeah, well, you guys know. So after that happened, they announced that it was going to be delayed, and instead of a full length, they would drop the Despicable EP, which only one track was going to be on the actual full length under the Scalpel Blade. But the 4 tracks they put on this bad boy are awesome, like The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue, The Lying and Winding Byre Road, and Slaughtered in Solo. Oh my god, dude. The riffs on that song in particular are incredible. But, so yeah, that was a little bit of a tease as to what's going to happen. So, now we enter 2021 where things were returning to normal in some capacity. Now that the pandemic was over, it was time for them to finally release the follow-up to Surgical Steel. This time with Jens Bogren doing the production. So, or actually Jens Bogren actually mastered this album. So it doesn't really say on like Wikipedia in the archives who really produced this album. It says that maybe the band did, or maybe Colin Richardson did. We can't really tell on this album, but on September 17th, 2021, we would get Torn Arteries. This is my number 3. Now, people might be saying that it might be a little bit of recency bias since this was the first Carcass album I ever listened to. You can't say that, but that's also how fucking awesome this album is. Like, this album, from top to bottom, does not waste your time and just pound you with melodies, pound you with riffs, pound you with awesome vocals, and just absolutely aggressive stuff throughout. This is one of the more thrashier albums, too. Like, you get tracks like the title track and the opening of Eleanor Rigor Mortis, and especially on Kelly's Metapodium, full-on thrashers as well. But you get some more variety on this album. Like, you get some stuff that's really akin to, like, necroticism in terms of the more kind of groovier melodic stuff, like Under the Scalpel Blade and In God We Trust. But you also, and also The Devil Rides Out as well. But you also get those more thrashy songs that I just mentioned a little bit. But you also get some, like, anthemic, like, fist-pumping affairs like Dance of Ixtab. Like, that sounds like something off of Swan Song. Like, you could have put that song on Swan Song, and it would not be out of place if you ask me. But also something on this album that I kind of gathered, and correct me if I'm wrong here, there's a little bit of a progressive vibe on some of the tracks, at least in my personal opinion, like on Sat's Remorseless Swing and Flesh Ripping Sonic Torment Limited, which was a bit of a callback to one of their demos before they really started putting out full lengths. That song in particular, which is the longest track they've ever done, really kind of give a bit of a progressive kind of vibe to it. And Wake Up and Smell the Carcass / Caveat Emptor, so you say that. Wake Up and Smell the Carcass is actually a bit of was a callback to their compilation album that they did. So this is basically them sending like a love letter to the fans, be like, hey, do you remember the early stuff? We sure did, and we're gonna give you that. Yeah, I fucking love this album. Again, like the title track and Kelly's Metapodium are 2 of my favorite Carcass songs they've ever done. I love this album. This album is absolutely fantastic. Production's amazing. I really, really, really love the riffs. Everybody's just firing on all cylinders on this album. And, yeah, I can't really complain about it. It's just a fucking incredible album through and through. So, yeah, my number 3, Torn Arteries. So this album also received positive reception and charted big as well. For promotion for this album, they toured in North America for the first time in 6 years with Immolation and Creeping Death. More big tours, including supporting Amon Amarth for their Great Heathen Army North American tour. Still touring on Torn Arteries, and in an interview, Bill said that they're more so focusing on touring and no new album as of right now. Just a matter of timing, honestly. Like they're more or less becoming more of a touring band than an album band, which I could somewhat respect. I mean, hell, they've been in the league since the 80s, and they had to take a break because of some bullshit. And you know what? They want to give back to the fans, I feel like. And I can honestly respect that. So they were confirmed to play at Sonic Temple in Columbus, Ohio, and are confirmed to be at the Welcome to Rock event in Florida in May. And that Sonic Temple event, I would kill to go to one. I would hopefully go to one day because that shit seems like a fuck ton of fun. And that, folks, closes the book, the medical book, if you will, right now on Carcass's career. So how does Carcass rank in terms of all-time death metal bands? Honestly, top 10, borderline top 5 if you ask me. One of the best death metal bands of all time if you ask me, even though Swan Song does exist. This band cranked out some of the best death metal albums of all time and is going to be remembered till here into oblivion. So folks, that concludes this video. What did you guys think about this Carcass ranking? How would you rank their discography? Let me know in the comment section below. Now for the next ranking I'm going to be doing, one's going to be a little bit of a heart punch, if you will, considering that, well, we nearly lost him a year ago. I can't believe it's been a year since this man is no longer with us, and the fact he actually lived as long as he did, considering all the shit he did in the 80s and 90s, is, honest to God, a miracle. And of course, I'll be doing my best to pay tribute for the first time ever, a solo retrospective on this ranking. I'll be tackling all these studio albums from the Prince of Darkness himself, Ozzy Osbourne. And it's kind of funny, too, that I'm actually doing my ranking the same time that my good buddy Levi, aka Thrashmaniac99, is doing his ranking. So, coincidence? I think not. But anyways, folks, yeah, be on the lookout for my tribute to Ozzy there. And as always, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment, tap that big red subscribe button, and tap the bell so when I upload, you guys will be notified. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Most importantly, join the herd. Till our next video. Peace out.